All right, what's up, everyone? Episode 4 of our Packers Weekly Discussion. I'm Blake Adams, joined with Nick Nassos. And today's episode, we have a couple things. So the first one that we want to start with is we're going to cover the 2020 draft class for the Green Bay Packers. We're each going to give a grade for the main players. There's 5, so Jordan Love, A.J. Dillon, Josiah DeGuara, Kamal Martin, and then John Runyon were the people that we believed played enough snaps or we were picked high enough where we can grade them. And I guess we can start with the first one now, and that's going to be Jordan Love. So, Nick, you gave the grade C-.
I did.
What is your reasoning behind that? And, yeah, just explain that.
So, last year, the Packers took a quarterback in the first round, and I actually was reading a lot before the draft, and I saw that they were really interested in Jordan Love, but I did not believe they were going to take him in the first round. I thought it was like more of a, if he's there in the second round, we're going to get him. So, yes, I was surprised that the Packers took Jordan Love. I was not shocked, but obviously I was surprised because we have Aaron Rodgers, great quarterback, solid guy who's been there for years. And so when they took Jordan Love, yeah, it shocks me like the rest of everyone else. But I gave it a C- because it was our first round draft pick, and he did nothing this year to benefit the Packers. Yeah, he might be our guy for the future. He might not be. Aaron Rodgers just won MVP. I want us to extend Aaron Rodgers. I want Aaron Rodgers to play his whole career at Green Bay. He deserves it. He's earned it. He's one of the best quarterbacks. Us fans want him. We love him, and that's what we want. So I gave Jordan Love a C- because I think at the end of the day, this might be a wasted draft pick. It might not be, but it might be. He might not play for the Packers. We could have got someone who would have helped us in the first round, but we got a quarterback who didn't play the first year, isn't going to play his second year, and I'm fine with that. If we bring him in a fourth or fifth year, I'm fine with that. But I give him a C- because I don't think that's what the Packers are going to do with him. And I think they're either going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, which I wouldn't like, and bring in Jordan Love either the following season after this season, or they're going to dish him and not keep him around to just sit on the bench. But I would be fine with him sitting on the bench. So that's why I give it a C- because he's just not doing anything for us right now.
Okay, interesting. So I think if you asked me draft day, my reaction, so like the Thursday of the draft after it all happened, I would have probably given it like an F or a D because I hated the pick at first. But it's starting to warm up to me, and here's a couple reasons why. So obviously we talk about the Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. You could talk about a bunch of other ones too. Alex Smith to Mahomes, Alex Smith to Kaepernick. I mean, Alex Smith been on the bad end of some of these, but basically having a quarterback sit and letting them learn is usually the best way for you to get the best out of them. And with a position as important as quarterback, you need the best of the best play. That's the only way you're going to usually succeed as a team. So I think Jordan Love was he was definitely a little bit of a raw prospect in college. But sitting for at least it's looking like 2 years, right? He's going to be sitting for 2 years behind Rodgers. He has LaFleur. We already have a pretty good system and team intact. And I think he'll be really good, honestly. I really do. He has the arm talent. He can throw off platform. That, like, his talent's there, and I think he'll be able to definitely develop. I understand that it could definitely be a wasted draft pick. That's probably why I'm not higher on it. And we're not going to get the full benefit of having his rookie contract. But say he plays 2 years cheap, and then we re-sign him, and he's not that much. That's obviously farther down the road, but it's feasible if he doesn't have much game experience. And if we have a quarterback for cheap, we can load up the roster. We've seen teams do time and time again where they have a rookie contract and the quarterback's good. Now, it does depend on him being good, but I think he will be good, and that's why I give it a B.
I also think he'll be good. I just don't know if he'll be good for the Packers. And
okay,
I don't want him to play if it means we're getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. I want Aaron Rodgers to finish his career as a Packer. And if Jordan Love's still around, great, let's bring him in. But I don't want to be like, we're not extending Rodgers because we have Jordan Love. We don't know for sure if he's going to be good. We think he's going to be good. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers good. I do know that for sure. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers good, which is why I just don't like getting rid of an MVP quarterback in order to bring in a guy who's unproven in the league. If he waits till Rodgers is done, great. I would love it, but I do not want to shorten Rodgers' career with the Packers in order to bring in Jordan Love.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and I'm with that. I'm not holding that against him. I'm more of grading it the fact that who he can be. And I'm with you. Like, I wish we probably didn't end up taking him and would have went receiver or defense, but we did. And the fact knowing that we have we will most likely have a good quarterback for the next 5 years, assuming he comes in. And I think, like I said, I think he'll be good. So that's where I'm like, okay, we have a little insurance. Like we're not completely uncertain about our future, maybe in the short term, but in the long term, we know we'll have Jordan Love most likely. And I think they will stick with him. But yeah, like they've also been really uncertain with Rodgers' contract. And we're going to discuss that later, but with the uncertainty around that, they needed a backup plan because we can't have Scott Tolzien go out there. We can't have Seneca Wallace go out there. We probably don't want Tim Boyle going out there either. So yeah, I agree. If we would have went all in instead of picking him, I would have preferred that. But the fact that we have him and we do have sort of an insurance plan, and I think he'll be talented is like my main thing is I like his arm talent. And teams always talk about like sitting and developing quarterbacks and, you know, prepping them up. But how many teams actually do that? There's very few teams that are willing to wait on a quarterback, have him develop, and make sure he's ready to go before he actually plays. Instead, they look like Sam Darnold and they go out there without any weapons. Adam Gase is your head coach. Or it's other situations like that where they kind of get thrown into a fire and they never have a chance to succeed. But Jordan Love has the chance and he's the talent.
And I'm very big on having them sit because like for Patrick Mahomes, he sat a year. It's Patrick Mahomes. And for Aaron Rodgers, he sat for 3 years. Aaron Rodgers. Even Baker Mayfield, he didn't sit a season, but he sat a few weeks, about a quarter of the season. And I really do think that helps him a lot. Just to like watch the NFL game from the sideline with the coaches talking about the plays. And yeah, so I'm really big for sitting quarterbacks and not bringing them in week one. I do not like teams that bring in quarterbacks week one because it rarely works out in their favor, especially that first season, because they're already a bad team. That's why they got a new quarterback to bring in week one. So they're a bad team, and they're rushing in their new guy, and then they're still going to be a bad team.
Yeah, that'll definitely happen. And yeah, like I said, like, do I wish we would have gone somewhere else with this pick and not would have taken a quarterback? Yes. But the fact that we do have him and when Rodgers is done and how long he stays, which we don't know because the organization hasn't decided, we do have someone with a lot of talent, and not many teams can say that. So that's why I gave him a B. Nick's a little bearish on it compared to me with the C-, but I still think he hopes for the best for him if and when he does play for us.
I want Jordan Love to play for us after Rodgers' career. I just don't want to rush Rodgers' career.
Yeah.
And if we're willing to hold on to him for that long, I would be for that. That's okay with me.
Okay, gotcha. And so next, I know we're going to disagree with each other on this one. So I was more mad at this pick, I think, than the Jordan Love one, just like after it all went down. But you gave him a B. What are your thoughts on A.J. Dillon, and why'd you give him a B?
So once again, obviously when we drafted A.J. Dillon, just like Jordan Love, he did not come in right away. But I knew that we were not going to have Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones the following season. And A.J. Dillon could be that second guy. He doesn't have to be the first guy right now. He might be the first guy. He will be the first guy for us one day. But I honestly did not think we'd re-sign Aaron Jones. I'm glad we did. He's a great running back. But I thought we'd get Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon. But A.J. Dillon backing up Aaron Jones is very exciting for me. A.J. Dillon carried the ball 46 times last season. And in those 46 times, he had 242 yards. That's just over 5-yard average. And he only scored 2 touchdowns, but he wasn't going to play at all. So he got 2 more touchdowns than we expected. He did not do too much in the receiving game. I believe he only had 2 or 3 receptions last year. Yeah. But Aaron Jones can receive. So A.J. Dillon's the guy who can run right up the middle between the tackles multiple times a game. And I really like that. I think he's a stronger back than Jamal Williams was. Jamal Williams was a good back, really fun to have around. I love Jamal Williams, but
Yeah.
AJ Dillon's that new guy, and I like him backing up Aaron Jones, and I'm excited for him to be a future Packer.
Okay, so I like AJ Dillon the player. Now, here's where I just don't like it. First off, we already had 2 running backs, and if we wouldn't have kept either of Jones or Williams, I'd have been like, okay, that makes sense that you're doing that, like drafting a running back in the second round. And that's the thing that gets me is I just don't see the value in that if you're not going to start him day one. Running back is one of the few positions that is pretty easily transferable from college to the pros. It has a greater hit rate than most other positions, I would say. You look at the 2017 NFL draft, there's over 12, I think there's probably like 12 to 15 running backs that have played significant time. That's like half the league right there. And they were taken all over the place. There was McCaffrey to Dalvin Cook to Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams. Austin Eckler was undrafted. There's other guys too. So I just don't see the value in that. And then, okay, he's like a ram. He's basically a ram, right? Like he comes in, you hand it to him up the middle. He faces stack box a ton at Boston College. And then this was also our deepest position. We had Jones and we had Williams last year. So he was our third running back for the majority of the year. And I just don't see the point of doing that if you're a second-round team. And we just played the Niners, who ran for over 200 yards on us. We didn't draft defense till round 5. And we took one of the most luxurious positions in the second round when that's our deepest position. That's where it gets me, and I just don't like the pick. I don't mind A.J. Dillon as a player. It's just more of the positional value with it already being a deep position for us.
So if we didn't draft A.J. Dillon last year, then we'd obviously have to draft a running back this year. Like we wouldn't really have a choice at this point.
Yeah.
And when would we do that, you think? Because we've already talked about what the Packers need to draft this year, and I just don't think we can use a pick this year on a running back.
Well, see, we could if we would have addressed some of our other needs, like whether that be linebacker, D-line, receiver, particularly in the second round last year, that would have been what I think would have been the better idea. So we draft a receiver in, say, the second or a D-lineman, and then that's not as much of a need this year, and then we could draft a running back this year. Because like I said, like running back is one of the positions that can transfer pretty easily, and running backs obviously don't stay in the league very long compared to, say, guards or tackles. Their bodies just wear down faster. And so we took him, and we didn't really get much tread with him, and he's not – and now we re-signed Jones, so he's not even our starter. So we spent a second-round pick on our third running back, and now he's our second running back. And he's a good running back.
We use 2 running backs. Like we're not like some other teams where it's one guy gets 95% of the carries.
Yeah,
like,
no,
he's going to get his touches.
Yeah, no, we definitely run like a running back by committee for sure. We did last year, and I'm sure we'll do it again this year. But still, I just don't like taking a position that's not valued high in the second round, and he's not even our starter. That's where it gets me. And we could have used him a lot more in short yardage situations. If you remember in 2019, we were one of the worst third and short offenses.
I remember.
Yeah, and I feel like that was like the main reason we decided to draft him. And we got the next guy we're going to talk about, DeGuara, who's a good blocker, and we're going to run more heavy packages where we just basically run the ball down the other team's throat. But we really didn't do that with him, and we could have, because we still gotten a lot of third and short situations this year, but we still had Williams and Jones. So what was the point of getting him if you're not going to utilize his talents? Like his talent of being really good in the short against the stack boxes. He's a massive human being.
So the Packers, not this last season, but 2 seasons ago, they got to the NFC Championship game, and they really thought that they could get to the Super Bowl and win with that same team. They did not think they needed to get. We knew that they needed 1 or 2 more pieces, and that's what we're telling them this year. I think they're going to listen this year. Yeah, but they didn't. They were like, we can already get it. We're going to have Rodgers for 1 more year. Let's draft for the future. And that's what they thought. They were just looking too far ahead. And now we got to the exact same spot because we had the exact same team. So this year, they learned. They made a mistake and they learned. This year, we're going to draft for the now, hopefully. I'm very hopeful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, A.J. Dillon is going to be part of the team this year, though. Jordan Love's not going to play this year, but A.J. Dillon is. And he's going to play every game.
Yeah. No, and then here's the other thing too is like he's not that versatile in the fact that he's not a great route runner. He's not going to be
No,
making
he's
great.
not a receiving back.
Yeah, I don't think he's the best blocker either. Like pass protection, Jamal Williams was our guy for that. So he's more of just like a one-dimensional runner, and that in the second round to me is just like I just don't get the value there. I really don't. There was other places I would have preferred to go than running back in the second when we already have Jones and Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy he's on the team though because he is a good player. Don't get me wrong. Like that Tennessee game, he looked phenomenal. And he did average over 5 yards a carry. So when he got touches, like he did look good. But like, what was the point of doing that when we could have filled other holes? And running back, they could have just taken that this year instead of last year in the second round.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that covers AJ Dillon. So
yep.
I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think Nick is more of a fan of it than I am for sure. He gave him a B. But yeah, he'll definitely contribute this season as our second running back behind Aaron Jones. And we can move on to the next guy, and that is Josiah Deguara. Sorry. So you gave him a B+. I was C+. What are your thoughts on Josiah?
So another tight end, and ever since Jermichael Finley, the Packers really have not had a tight end. And that's why they drafted him, because they didn't know. But Robert Tonyan had a great year, which is why now it's a D+. And the Packers could not have known that Robert Tonyan was going to have that good of a year. So at the time, it looked like a better pick than a D+. But after seeing this last season, how Robert Tonyan did, and then we still have Robert Tonyan, that's why this pick's a D+. Robert Tonyan is going to be our tight end, obviously. And Mercedes Lewis is going to be our blocker. Josiah Deguara is a good blocker, but we just signed Mercedes Lewis for 2 more years. He's getting old. He's a good mentor in the locker room, and he's still going to play because he can catch the ball too. Like, he doesn't get dropped. He has no drops.
Yeah.
So Josiah Deguara will get his chance, I want to say, with the Packers, but we did not need to get him. We thought we needed to at the time because we did not know Robert Tonyan was going to be as good. Robert Tonyan, was he undrafted or was he really late? But
I want to say he was undrafted.
I think Robert Tonyan was undrafted, so we did not know how he was going to shape out. He was not too good the year before last year. He had a couple pop-off games, but this was really his outstanding season, which is why this pick's a D+.
Okay. So Robert Tonyan signed as an undrafted free agent with the Lions in 2017. Clearly he's with us now. Looked pretty good last year, a lot of touchdowns. So I gave him a C+. Now he only played in 2 games, right? So
I think he got injured.
He got injured in the Falcons Monday night game. He played the Vikings game though. He only had 1 catch, 12 yards. Okay, that's fine. But for me, so we obviously run the Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay offense. And so after the draft, I think it was LaFleur or Goody said they view him as like the Kyle Juszczyk. So he's like the H-back. So he's going to be the fullback. He can also split out wide for tight end and block. I think if you remember the Vikings game, he had a really, really good block where he like took out 2 people with 1 block. That was just a cool play. One of the few that he had because he only played in like 1 game and like 10 snaps in the other. But so I think that's actually like he definitely has a role on the team. And I hope what I am hoping is that when Mercedes Lewis retires, he will be able to step in for that role too as the blocker because he is a really good blocker, pretty decent receiver. That's mainly his thing is his role is Kyle Juszczyk. So just like think about what he does, and then he's like a light version of that because we haven't really seen much of him. But that's why
fullbacks are going away from the game right now. Like a lot of teams don't even have a fullback anymore. I like fullbacks. I think they're a cool part of the game.
They're definitely valuable if you use them, but if you don't use them,
a lot of teams don't use them anymore.
Yeah, but like in our offense, we do use one we could have a use for one. So that's where
we could. We know how to. We've used them in the past. Ripkowski and Kuhn.
Yeah, so that's why I like it. Now, the reason why it's a C+ is part of what just happened with Mercedes Lewis. So they brought him back. Now, he's a phenomenal blocker. I would say he's a better blocker than Deguara. But Deguara is like obviously faster so he can play that halfback role. But the thing that I thought they were doing is getting Josiah, and then he would be able to fill in for Mercedes, but they paid Mercedes instead. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. I know he's a great locker room. We've mentioned that, like, everyone loves him and stuff, but $8 million for someone who's like 36, 37 years old is kind of a lot to fork over. Now, I guess they really like him and value him, and that's awesome. So it is a bit, again, of a luxury pick in the sense that it's not, if we didn't have him, we wouldn't be completely screwed. I think you saw that this season, where if we took, say, a receiver, an offensive lineman, corner, interior D lineman, all the things we've harped on, we could have maybe got more production out of those guys or that position.
Yeah, so like I said, when we drafted him, it was higher than the D+ because we didn't know if we had that tight end at the time.
Yeah.
But now that I've seen what Tanyan's capable of, and he should have been, he wasn't a Pro Bowler. I think he should have been. He had 10 more touchdowns than Evan Ingram did, but we don't need to talk about that. We're talking about Josiah Deguara. So, yeah, I just don't know what his role is going to be this season. I'm interested to see. I think Tanya's going to be the receiving tight end the whole time, and Josiah Deguara is probably going to get some time blocking with Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is going to be the primary guy, but I'm sure they'll throw Josiah in there, and he'll play in more than 2 games this season.
Yeah, and we still don't know what's going on with Sternberger. We remember took him in the 3rd round a few years ago. Mm-hmm. He hasn't shown to be that great. He was more of
I don't think he's good. I think he had his chance, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, he doesn't have the best hands, and he's more of a receiving tight end, so it's like kind of a tough situation there. And
I believe he had some key drops this last season.
He did, and then we also brought in, if you remember, Dominique Daphne, who was like that fullback tight end role. He did a pretty decent job when he was in at blocking, so we'll see if they bring him.
Yeah, that's a blocking guy.
Yeah, that's Josiah. The next guy, we disagree with this one on a little bit on this one. Kamal Martin. So we drafted him in the 5th round out of Minnesota. He had some injury issues, I believe his last year in Minnesota. I think he had a really good Senior Bowl. So that's where all the college seniors, they have a week of practice and they play a game. He was a standout of that, and that's one of the reasons we liked him. Played in, I believe, 10 games for us. He had some injury history, popped off a little bit. With his speed, and we didn't really know what we were doing at linebacker this year. After letting Martinez go, we let Jake Ryan go a couple years ago. BJ Goodson's on the Browns now. So what are your thoughts on Kamal Martin?
Yeah, so Kamal Martin, we got him in the 5th round. He started 6 games for us, but played in a total of 10 games this last season. And I just feel like I want to see a little more from him. He did have a sack. He had a few tackles for loss, but I really think that even though he's a 5th rounder, I did expect more because our defense is not the strongest, as everyone knows. Our secondary is good, but our other guys are not the strongest. So I was really hoping, even though we got in the 5th round, that he could be someone exciting, and he's not that yet for me. He can get there, but right now he wasn't that yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So I guess I look at it a little differently. So I think of if our team's drafting in the 5th round and we get someone who can contribute and they make the roster, I think that's already a win already. Usually 5th to 6th to 7th rounders are just like lottery tickets, and there's a lot of times they don't even make the team. So not only did he make the team, he helped fill in for a position at need. Like I said, we had Kamal Martin, who's undrafted. We didn't cover him because we didn't draft him, but he was really good against the run this year for us. Made a lot of pretty big plays in that department. But Kamal Martin, I think it was the Saints. I want to say it was the Saints game where he popped off. He made a couple of really, really big plays. And I just thought he had a bit of explosion that we hadn't really seen before from our linebackers, at least in years. And it was exciting to see that. Like I said, 5th round, if you can get a guy who makes the team and contributes a little bit, that's awesome. But a guy who could start 6 games, play in 10. Now, he did kind of fall out of the rotation a bit when Kirksey got into form end of season and then Kamal Martin started. So end of year, he wasn't as much of a key player for us. But in the beginning of the year, he definitely filled in a role that was important for us.
I guess I'm also just kind of judging him based on the playoffs, since that last game of our season was kind of frustrating to watch. And he
Hmm.
played a quarter of the snaps against the Bucks. He just didn't really do much in that game.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Bucks are a great team. They won the Super Bowl, but that's just kind of what I'm looking at, because we could get to the playoffs and we gotta win once we're there. So I guess I have a little more judgment on those couple games in the playoffs than I
Hmm.
do the rest of the season, just because those are more important. But overall, he wasn't terrible. Obviously, he was good for a fifth rounder.
No, like, and you think we took Ty Summers? He's another linebacker, a special teamer. I want to say in the 6th or 7th round, maybe even 5th. He did not look that good. He played a lot in that Saints game. Tackling's not there. He's not the most athletic, but Kamal Martin is athletic. I want to say he's 6'3", like 230, 240 pounds possibly. Yeah,
240,
240
6'3",
pounds.
240.
Yeah, like he is a big dude. I think he'll be good in the future with Martin, and it's not ideal, obviously, but it's better than when we had B.J. Goodson or Ty Summers or other guys of that nature.
And it's not just specific players on the Packers who can't tackle. Sometimes the Packers just decide they're not going to tackle for a
Yeah,
couple plays, and it's very frustrating to watch. But like when, especially against the Saints, Alvin Kamara broke
yeah,
like
that was
10
tough.
tackles in one run, and it was just very annoying.
It was everyone too. It wasn't just like
No,
the lesser
yeah,
known
it's
guys.
everyone.
There was Jair not making a big play, but we're not
And
going
usually
to.
Jair does stick with it and make that
Yeah.
play.
Okay. So that's Martin. Next guy and the last guy we wanted to talk about was Jon Runyan Jr. So he's an interior offensive lineman. Took him out of Michigan in the 6th round, probably the best Michigan 6th rounder in the history of the NFL. And he played in a few games this year. He was the backup, but when he did play, he had like 150 pass blocking snaps, didn't have a penalty, didn't give up a sack. I have him really graded really highly for when we got him in his production. What are your thoughts on Jon Runyan Jr.?
So the Packers had the number 2 ranked offensive line last year, which is very good because I value offensive lines extremely high. I think they're needed to win championships because that's how you protect your best player, the quarterback. And Jon Runyan did a good job. B plus is not a bad grade. I almost gave an A minus, but B plus is not a bad grade. I didn't want to give an A to a guy who didn't start any games. So
Yeah.
yeah, he played I think around 15 to 20% of snaps on offense, but he wasn't their starting guy, but we had the second best line, so we didn't need him to start yet. And I think in the future, he's going to be a really good lineman for the Packers. So, yeah, he played 160 snaps, didn't allow a single sack. And, yeah, I'm really excited for Jon Runyan. I like him a lot.
Okay, I'm with you on that. So we got him in the 6th round. So obviously, like, the expectations aren't sky high. We took another guy in the 6th round, Jake Hansen. He was on the practice squad. He tore his ACL. We took another guy, I think it was 6th round, out of Indiana. I'm blanking on the name, but he didn't really play. I don't think he played either. So our interior O-line had the backups were Lucas Patrick and Jon Runyan. And I think Jon Runyan, honestly, in the future will probably start for us at some point. And knowing we have someone who appeared to be pretty solid, I believe he's 6'5". He's obviously got the size to play the position, so that's nice. And yeah, when he came in, like, he wasn't noticeably bad. He wasn't when we had Don Barclay against the Cardinals on a Sunday night, and he's just getting beat every single play. That is not how it was. So yeah, I like him a lot. That's why I gave him an A. Like, you can't really ask much more from a 6th round pick. But yeah, I agree. If I can have him a B plus. Any more thoughts on him?
The guy from Indiana you were talking about was Simon Stepaniak. We also got him in the 6th round. He's an offensive lineman, and he didn't see the field, but no surprise there because he's from Indiana. Boiler up.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that'll wrap up the grade. So bottom line is, what would you grade the draft overall, Nick? Just
overall, I'd give us some kind of B. I don't know if that's B plus or B minus. I like AJ Dillon. I like Runyan. I do like Martin. I just don't like Degura and Love, but it was not a terrible draft. And I think it looks better now than it did during draft day, even though
Mhm.
our first two picks might look worse than draft day and our bottom picks might look better. But overall, I think we came out better than we expected.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I'd say probably like a plus.
Okay.
Um, and that's for, and I actually said C, and that's for direct impact on this season. But when you're drafting, you most rounds besides the first round, you have a player for 4 years under cheap contract,
Mm-hmm.
and I think most of the guys we drafted look like they will play and contribute meaningfully. Some of them I just don't value the position as much, like running
Like
back.
running back. Yeah.
Like Degura, I don't really think the fullback in the third round is the best idea when you have a ton of needs. Jordan Love will be great in the future, but if I had to grade him for last year, he would get an F. He didn't play, he didn't come in at all, didn't suit up. So
Yeah.
the short-term impact of the draft was not what we needed for like a winnings to help our winning for the season. But I think in the future, that's what the draft was mainly for. I guess it just depends on how you look at it in that sense. So that's interesting.
And we can always visit again after the season.
Yeah,
See how AJ Dillon does. He's going to get a big role.
exactly. And then we did have a quick question. So is AJ Dillon enough to complement Aaron Jones? Should the Pack look at the draft for more running back depth? I would say he's not entirely enough. I think he's one of the better, probably one of the best second running backs in the league, but I think we do need a third guy that brings more to the table in regards to like receiving. Because if Aaron Jones does go down with injury, we don't really have a running back that can catch or pass block or is shifty and elusive. That's where I think we probably might get a guy in like the 5th or 6th round that maybe they don't start immediately or they pick up a guy for cheap in free agency. But yeah,
So
I think we should.
I do think he's enough to complement Jones. As long as Jones is there, like you said, if Jones gets injured, we're not going to have a guy who can receive
Yeah.
out of the backfield. Maybe that's Rondell Moore. We don't know. But yes, I think he's enough to complement Aaron Jones. I just don't think he's enough if Aaron Jones goes down to be the lead guy, the big workhorse yet. In the future, he can be that guy, but not yet.
Yeah, he definitely lacks in just like overall receiving. He didn't really get much work with that, so that's why I'm worried. If Jones does go down, he can't like go out wide and go into the slot and like catch any passes of any nature. He catch screens, even then you don't really see that much. So, yeah, good question though. And then we did want to get to this topic, which has been this I guess issue has just been brewing for a little bit ever since the Jordan Love draft pick. So basically, Mark Murphy, the CEO of the Packers, made some comments about Aaron Rodgers' contract that you could say were controversial. So first start off with his roster bonus. So the Packers paid Rodgers a $6.8 million roster bonus. And they didn't convert it to a signing bonus. If they did convert it to a signing bonus, the hit was spread across the length of his contract, so lowering our cap hit this year and basically like guaranteeing a little more security for Rodgers in the sense that like they plan on him being there for longer because they're guaranteeing money and they don't plan on taking a dead cap hit if he's not there. And then this past Tuesday there was questions to Mark Murphy about why he wouldn't talk about the contract. And he said, I can't really get into specific players. We've been able to create room with others. So he's referring to some of the restructures of Adrian Amos, Preston Smith, Billy Turner, and the such. And then another person asked why the team wouldn't want to ensure Rodgers is the Packers quarterback beyond 2021. He said he's not going to get into any specifics on that. So he's been kind of dodging questions about Rodgers. We've had this whole Jordan Love draft scenario. So Nick, what are your thoughts on these comments by Mark Murphy, the CEO of the Packers, about Aaron Rodgers?
So 2 years ago, Aaron Rodgers had 26 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. And people are saying he threw the ball away too much. He still has 62% completion. And guess what? Good quarterbacks throw the ball away. Tom Brady throws the ball away more than anybody in the league. And most people walking on this earth would say Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. But this year, Rodgers' 60% completion became 70% completion. His 26 touchdowns became 48 touchdowns. His 4 interceptions only went up to 5 interceptions. And he had a 121 pass rating and won league MVP. So the fact that Aaron Rodgers might walk away from, well, not walk away, be pushed away from the Green Bay Packers after the season makes me sick. I could not see Aaron Rodgers in a jersey for any other team. That would that would hurt. That would be painful. If I had to watch on a Sunday Jordan Love walk out onto the field for the Packers while Aaron Rodgers is still in the league playing NFL football on another team. This man just won his 3rd MVP. He won a Super Bowl. He's gone to the NFC Championship the last 2 seasons. So the fact that we're just not automatically changing his contract so that he's a Packer until he does not want to play football anymore is really upsetting for me.
Okay, so yeah, like basically the reason why they're not restructuring him or talking about extension is they would be committing to him more in the future, as if they made some of his, or if they converted some of his base salary to a roster bonus or a signing bonus, it would spread the cap over the length of his contract, creating more room now, guaranteeing it. So basically it'd be harder to get rid of him in the future with more dead cap. And that's the reason why they keep declining talking about it. So basically they're saying like they want to keep their options open if they want to go Jordan Love sooner rather than later. So I'm also just like not a fan of this in the sense that they're really just not committing. They're not committing to either Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers fully, which I think leaves the organization and us fans in just like kind of a mode of like, okay, like how long is Rodgers actually going to be here for? Like when is Jordan Love coming in? Is he coming in? Because right now it looks like they want Jordan Love in there sooner than later is the way I see it. If not, if they did want Rodgers here for like the next 4 years, they would have made that happen already. Like they could have very easily extended him, restructured him to say, okay, like we want you here, giving him a no trade clause, giving him more security, but they haven't. So it really does look like they want to move on to Jordan Love.
So Tom Brady is 43 years old and Aaron Rodgers is 37 years old. Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl. There is no reason that Aaron Rodgers could not play for the Green Bay Packers for at least 4 more years if he wanted to. Jordan Love, there's nothing that management needs to prove. If they wasted that draft pick, we do not care as long as Aaron Rodgers is still playing as MVP Aaron Rodgers. We do not care if you wasted Jordan Love. We want our quarterback who has been here for a decade to stay here because he is good. He is the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now, and he is not just going to fall off a cliff. Everyone has been saying for the last 4 seasons that Tom Brady was going to fall off a cliff, and he never did. I was one of those people who's like, Tom Brady, he's going to go to the Bucs. He doesn't have Belichick anymore. He is not going to do as much. I thought they were going to be like 9-7, and they won the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers can win another Super Bowl. He can win another MVP. He can win 2 Super Bowls or 2 MVPs. They need to commit to him long term because it'll make him feel safer too.
Yeah, so like I'm kind of with you on that. Like, and you would think he's shown signs of regression. Like he definitely hasn't. You can say the Mike McCarthy years or whatever. Maybe his stats weren't 45 touchdowns and like 3 interceptions, but they were still really good, and he didn't look like a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. It just got stale between Rodgers and McCarthy. I think most people can admit that. And you know what? That happens. It happened with Andy Reid and the Eagles, and look what happened with him. He went on to the Chiefs, and he's done very, very well. So same thing with McCarthy. Now he's on the Cowboys. I wouldn't say they're doing all that well, but you know he found another gig, and Rodgers has moved on. He looks great. And then here's the thing too. So like, if they don't want to admit, or like I guess what you mentioned, like they don't want to say they wasted the Jordan Love draft pick. Like me and you, I think can agree. Like I would be totally okay if they just said, if let's say they trade Jordan Love right now, and they said, you know, we wasted the pick. We got it wrong. We should have done this. I think me and you would be like, okay, at least like we know like what the future looks like. We know you're committed to Rodgers and all that. Or if they did the other thing, they said, okay, like we have some issues with Rodgers. We want to move on to Love. They're just not committing to either of them. So it's like you can't have both sides of it where you just want the best of both. You got to pick one, and at some point, that decision needs to be made.
And Aaron Rodgers' first season, like as a full-time starter, was in 2008, and he had 13 interceptions. Since then, so since 2008, there's only been one other season he has thrown double-digit interceptions. That was 11 in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, he's thrown 8 or less every year. The last 2 seasons, he has 9 combined. And also, Aaron Rodgers has been injured in the past. Shane McClellan on the Bears broke his collarbone. Anthony Barr injured him up badly, but he has bounced back. Like, injuries don't stop him. Yeah, they knock him out. And you've seen what the Packers do without Aaron Rodgers. When they didn't have Aaron Rodgers last time, they went 6-9-1. The next year when they had him back, brand new coach, they were 13-3. They've been 13-3 the last 2 seasons because Aaron Rodgers, he's the most valuable person in the NFL. Like, I'm not even saying, like, I think he's the best player, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying value to the team. Like, without him, they're a 7 wins different team. And no other player in the NFL, if you take them away, that team's going to lose 7 of their wins. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple quarterbacks you could maybe argue, but I know what you're saying. Like, you take him away and the team changes a lot. And
more than double our wins with him than if we didn't have him.
And the whole argument of him, like, falling off a cliff or whatever, like, I don't really think I've heard it that much with him at all. You heard it with Brady, but when you think about Rodgers, like, you think about his arm talent. His arm has not gotten any weaker. He can go off platform.
I think Rodgers is the only quarterback still in the league who doesn't wear, like, the muscle sleeves, you know? So, like, people say, like, oh, my gosh, his arms are so skinny. He doesn't care what his arms look like. Look at that man throw the football.
He has a cannon of an arm. It's not getting really any weaker. You can argue with other quarterbacks. You see them become, like, kind of a shell of themselves. Like, you could almost say with Big Ben a little bit and how maybe it was the offense they were running, but he didn't push the ball down the field all that much last year. Aaron Rodgers
was just dishing it off.
Like, his arm's not failing. So I think bottom line with this is we're a little frustrated with Mark Murphy's comments on Aaron Rodgers' contract and how they aren't committing to either Jordan Love or Rodgers, and they're kind of in this standstill between them both. I would prefer them go Rodgers route. It doesn't look like they're doing that. So if they do go Love, like, I just want them to go all in on it and not, like, twiddle their thumbs and just wait on it,
And I'm not just mad. I'm also confused. Like, he won MVP. What is there to think about? What are they, like, still deciding? He's he's one of the best player in the league. He went to the NFC Championship game. Like, come on. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. They don't look like it doesn't look like it's going to get resolved anytime soon. And I know Aaron Rodgers has somewhat of an out of his contract where they can get out of it without too much penalty after 2022. So, or I think the offseason of 2022. So that's my prediction for when he will potentially stop playing with us.
I hope you're wrong. I hope so too. I think if they get rid of him, they'll either get rid of him then or he'll stay for a long time. I was confident you were wrong until recently when we just still have not done anything with him. And now I'm starting to think we might go to Jordan Love a lot earlier than I wanted to. And it's just frustrating.
Yep. So that'll wrap up this episode of Weekly Packers Discussion. So basically, in summarization, graded all the rookies, talked about Mark Murphy's comments on Aaron Rodgers' contract. We both had some strong feelings and thoughts about that one. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with more Packers discussion.